It's difficult to tell at first exactly what the structure in this photo could be. A gravel path staircase leads upwards, with mounds of rocks piled high on either side. The wide staircase's incline is at about 20 degrees, although it offers an easy climb. In fact, this giant mound of rocks is found in St. Charles County, Missouri, near Weldon Spring, to the west of St. Louis and adjacent to Highway 40. The hill rises out of the ground like an ancient burial tomb, protecting the surrounding area from a deadly secret within. It's the site of the Nuclear Waste Adventure Trail and Museum, commonly referred to as the Weldon Spring Nuclear Dump Site. It draws thousands of curious visitors each year. People can climb to the top of the 75-foot-tall dome to reach the placard that tells the story of what was once the world's largest explosive factory, and would go on to become one of America's most dangerous radioactive sites. Consider it a 45-acre monument to toxicity that's become an unlikely tourist attraction. TNT Central. In 1941, the United States Army purchased 17,000 acres of land outside of St. Louis. Hamburg, Howell, and Toonerville were three pretty towns in the surrounding rolling wooded hills. All three were immediately evacuated to make room for the Army's plans. Hundreds of homes, businesses, schools, and any other buildings in the area were either demolished or burned. Within a few months, the three towns had ceased to exist. In their place, the Weldon Spring Ordnance Works built the largest explosives factory in the United States. It produced TNT and DNT for Allied forces during World War II and was operated by the Atlas Powder Company. The site comprised more than 1,000 buildings and employed more than 5,000 people. By the time the plant ceased production on August 15, 1945, the very day that the Japanese surrendered, it had produced more than 700 million pounds of TNT. Uranium heyday. Most of the land was sold after the war. The state of Missouri acquired 7,000 acres, while the University of Missouri bought another 8,000 acres, which was later sold to the Conservation Department. This property today comprises the Bush Memorial Conservation Area and Weldon Spring Conservation Area. The remaining 2,000 acres were retained by the United States Atomic Energy Commission. It was there the Commission built a uranium ore processing plant in 1955, known as the Weldon Spring Uranium Feed Mill Plant. It was operated by Mallinckrodt Chemical Works of St. Louis, and it processed raw uranium into yellow cake, or concentrated ore. The agency proclaimed the complex a showpiece of cutting-edge technology. It employed about 1,000 people and attracted visitors from all over the world. Workers even called the place the Clean One, a testament to the fact that they no longer handled the uranium by hand. For many workers, the risks of accidents involving the sulfuric, hydrofluoric, and nitric acids used at the plant caused more anxiety than any threat of actual radiation. Hydrofluoric acid was a particular concern. Its effects were often described as fast-acting leprosy. One ex-employee who worked at the Weldon Springs facility, Virginia D. Heusman, spoke of how she received a stocking allowance since the contamination ate holes through her stockings. The plant closed in 1966. During the Vietnam War, the Army planned to use part of the old uranium processing facilities to produce the infamous toxic chemical Agent Orange. The plan was later abandoned. The plant would remain abandoned for 20 years, save for a partial cleanup in 1968, in which the government dumped 900 truckloads of radioactively contaminated material into an old quarry 4 miles south of the plant. The quarry also had thousands of drums of thorium and residue from uranium processed for the Manhattan Project. During the 1960s, teenagers would often dare each other to swim in the quarry. An arduous cleanup. In 1986, employees of the U.S. Department of Energy and its contractors commenced a 12-year, $400 million cleanup of the site. Even they were surprised at the state of the facility. Around 100 pounds of pure uranium metal were found scattered around the plant grounds, and 1 ton of thorium was found in an abandoned building. A further estimated 214 tons of uranium and 129 tons of thorium remained in the pits. The manager of the cleanup, Rodney Nelson, would later state how the biggest surprise for his team was the discovery of carcinogenic nitrates due to the processing of TNT and DNT during World War II. In total, the site was contaminated with over 1.5 million cubic yards of asbestos, radioactive uranium, and contaminated rubble, a shocking amount of hazardous waste. Yet future plans for the dormant site continued unabated. St. Charles County wanted to use part of the plant for a home for low-income elderly people, while the University of Missouri and Francis Howell High School each wanted the complex for classroom space. There was even talk of building a maximum security prison there. However, all these groups eventually lost interest once they learned the full extent of the contamination at Weldon Spring. Reporters from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch would write at length in February 1989 about how dilapidated the site was, describing it as, quote, like an abandoned set from a science fiction movie. They reported on rusting steel buildings and miles of rotted insulation and soil contaminated with radium, uranium, thorium, nitrates, and myriads of other chemicals. Bright yellow and purple signs towered over the site's perimeter, warning of radioactive contamination in and around the buildings. Weldon Spring today. The dome that covers all the waste material is officially called the Weldon Spring Site Remedial Action Project Disposal Cell. It was constructed from layers of clay, sand, stone, and concrete, and was engineered to last for 1,000 years. The U.S. Department of Energy finally completed the dome in 2001. It's essentially a giant 45-acre cap on the whole polluted landscape, a shield that protects the area from the radioactive remnants within. The 9,000-square-foot Weldon Spring Interpretive Center serves as a museum housing various artifacts from the site's history. The center was set up in a building once used to check workers for radioactivity. The stairway, pictured in the photo, leads to an observation platform atop the disposal cell, the highest point in St. Charles County. Visitors are encouraged to hike up to a viewing platform and take in the beautiful vistas, not to concern themselves with the tons of radioactive waste beneath them. The views from atop the dome are said to be quite pretty.